Right, we are here for our coffee chat and we have got lots to discuss with you all today. So before we get into our subject today, where we're going to be looking at AI and us, what it means, why when we talk about working on yourself, tuning in with yourself, knowing yourself, why does this have such huge implications for everything we're seeing play out in the world and the Great Awakening at the moment? But before we get into that, you guys know that the coffee chats are where Brice and I are doing a weekly giveaway each week. And so because of that, these coffee chats are not going on our other platforms that begins with an R, where you have to go and watch all the other controversial stuff. We're not taking any chances because we both have warnings and things. So these coffee chats will just be on the YouTube platform because we want to make it easier and fair to make sure that everyone who enters goes into the winning link. So at the end of the show or near the end of the show, we will announce who last week's winners were and how you enter for this coming week as well. So now we've got the admin out the way. How are you doing, Brice?
Well, I think we were just chatting offline before we started filming, and I'm so glad we're doing this. You texted me this morning about talking about this subject because it's something that's been very frustrating for me as well as you, as well as a lot of people watching right now, where we're starting to kind of see the idiocracy even coming from our own side of this war. And the idea of AI is really important. And I think we have this propensity as human beings to sometimes see things as either black or white. And technically speaking, according to psychology, that is the sign of an actual mental disorder, to paint things black and white. Really, a healthy mind is able to see things in gray and understand that it's not neither good nor bad. And so with AI, what I think is so important in this conversation is we are seeing this as being just extremely bad, extremely bad. And it's something Mr. Fox actually spoke about with Shanti on one of their last episodes on Aquarius Rising Africa, where he alluded to the point that AI is just a tool. And so the way it doesn't have a consciousness like a human being does. And so so if you look at it that way, and I think this is so great you brought this up, it's a way to really kind of do self-reflection, because it's like the algorithm battle. It's like the AI, the artificial intelligence, is only going to send out to you what you're looking for. And so it's a reflection as to yourself. And so I'm so glad we're going to talk about this today because it's so important.
It's so important. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is it's such a cliche to say to people, you've got to work on yourself and it's so important and it's all about yourself and what's going on inside, and that's going to not only create your reality, create your thoughts, your emotions, etc., but also attract things into you or repel other things away. But what you were saying and what Mr. Fox was saying about AI and not having consciousness at the moment, and one of the things I find so fascinating is like how do people understand the relevance of just how important not only being able to really tune in with yourself is, and we're going to come on to some ways that you can really, a lot of us know this. I think a lot of what we're going to be saying, like as always, we know this, but sometimes we need a reminder because in the hustle and bustle of daily life, it's those simple things that we forget. So if you're taking about, there's so much talk, quite rightly so, about AI now, but in my perspective, it's complex. We could talk about this for hours, but the reason why as humanity we're so worried about it is because we at the moment are the species that are programming it. There might be other ones involved. I don't know about that. But deep down, we know that we are not working as general. And when I'm talking about we, I'm talking about humanity here. I'm not going down to the individual level yet. We know that as humanity, we're so out of balance with nature, with our environment, with the earth, with all creatures, great and small, that therefore we are doing it we are living our lives in a self-centered, unsustainable way. And I'm not talking about the green movement. So if we were from a pure consciousness and we were operating as humanity from that place, then that is going to be the consciousness that would then be formed into the AI. And I don't think any of us would be worried about it. But I think most humans know deep down that the people who are developing and programming the AI and how quickly it can start taking on a consciousness of its own is, unfortunately, it's not a consciousness that we want to be propagating, because at the moment, let's be real, that most people or other beings or AI looking down on what's happening on Earth at the moment, it would be pretty obvious which species was causing the most disruption and the most damage, and that's us.
And that's why Mr. Fox said in our last episode that the third density lifespan is the shortest lifespan in the consciousness of a planet, because it is the planet will take the most abuse during that tells you a lot about humans, right? Like second density is one of the longest when it's just animals. But then you start adding humans into the mix, and that's when the planet takes the most beating, and cannot, because we become so self-destructive. And it's that self-awareness that you have the propensity to go in that direction, is what is going to alter this for us. But unfortunately, on this planet, I can't speak of other third density planets, but especially on this planet, we've been conditioned to believe that somebody else is going to do something for us, or that somebody else is at fault for something going on in our lives. And I'm not saying that's always the case. I'm not saying that every bad thing that happens to you is your fault. I'm just saying that we're so used to it being, I've said before, what's really frustrated me in this whole movement that we're going through is that people in the quote unquote truther community have this, like, not everybody, but a mass majority of what I'm seeing of people in this movement have this almost narcissistic view that they know what's going on. And so therefore anybody who doesn't agree with them is at fault, wrong. And
Yeah.
and that's why I released the video I did yesterday about junk conspiracy, because, and I don't like the word truther, I like the word seeker, because if we put ourselves in the place of a seeker, we're able to then, by nature as a seeker, self-reflect and course correct. When we go, oops, that was not right. That was junk conspiracy, got me again, but I'm now going to course correct and figure out where I, in my thinking, was reliant upon somebody else to give me the answers, or to blame somebody else for the problems I see in the world, instead of taking accountability for it myself. And with the AI, the very simplest expression of AI, we look at things like algorithms.
Yeah.
And so if you looked at my YouTube homepage right now, you would see like probably a bunch of Scientology podcasts pop up, because that's what I've been really studying. You would see some reality show stuff pop up. You would also see a lot of spiritual podcasts pop up, because that's what I typically listen to now. I don't listen to any other truthers at this moment, except for truthers, Catherine, which I don't even consider you and I to really be a part. We're more seekers. And obviously Shanti and Mornay, that's really the only videos I'll listen to now, because I don't want to get stuck in that AI loop of then all of a sudden these more dangerous videos popping up with dangerous ideas that can take me off course, if that makes sense. And so what I'm seeing, talked about the AI, we see all these videos out there of basically junk conspiracy that are making things very sensational, like saying that the fires in Canada are being caused by the good guys, which we know common sense tells you that they're not. Animals are losing their lives, humans are losing their lives, people are losing their land. The good guys are not going to hurt you. They're not, that's a himsa, that's nonviolence. They're not going to do that. And so, but people get caught in this like derangement where they start to spiral out of control, and they become that derangement, and they lose touch with reality. And losing touch with reality is losing touch with who you essentially are as a part of humanity. And so those videos then start popping up over and over and over again, pushing that person to the point of self-destruction, or pushing that group of people collectively to the point of allowing, and I've said this before, if you believe the white hats are in control, you're now in the cabals and the controllers, you're in their grips now. They have you, because now they can get you to relax while they walk right through your front door. And so you're putting humanity in danger of allowing this AI to come in and just wipe us out. Because trust me, I think the bad guys want us wiped out, because then they don't have to worry about anything. They can just have little robots going around doing their bidding. So anyway, I think that's so important to talk about, Catherine.
It's so important. There's so many things in there. And of course, we all know that the thing is how it will play out if it gets to that stage is that the black cats will have all of us wiped out. Just the very fact. And I do understand that we do things for simplicity. I understand sometimes labels have a point. I get that. But people can take the white hats and the black hats too far. You know, no one person will ever sit just in that camp or just in that camp. And this is why really taking it back to getting our know ourselves and tuning in. You know, Cesar Millan, who I listen to quite a lot, controversial figure, he is amazing if you really listen to what he says. And bearing in mind, he's dealing with all the dogs that humans have completely screwed up, often through no fault of their own, through ignorance. Most of what we're talking about here is not people deliberately going out to screw up their own lives and other people's lives. It's through lack of this self-awareness. And he always says, Cesar Millan always says, that humans are the only species that follow unstable leaders. And it's so true. And when we take that in, no wonder we're really scared about things like AI, because we have got idiots creating something that could literally wipe us out in one swoop. But when we get right back to basics, I do not find it depressing if people don't want that reality, because actually, you know, most of us listening here who's tied up in your day-to-day grind of going out to work, looking after the kids, juggling, not having any time to yourself, most of us do not even realize anymore what foods suit us. Let's take it right back to basics. So, and when we're saying this, please don't think that we're saying this as a criticism, because we get why everyone's in this space. But if you're sitting there and sort of saying, how tuned in am I actually with myself? You might be thinking, yeah, I'm really well tuned in with myself, or I don't know, how do I even know? Because I had this conversation with a good friend the other week. And some of the ways that I would start is I would say, do you clearly know how different foods affect you, good and bad? Is a really good place to start. Do you know how certain friends, or listening to certain podcasts or YouTubes or interactions, do you know how that affects you, and can you catch that really quickly? Do you understand how exercise affects you? What is your body? I've got an interview that I did with Yvette Rose that will be going up next week on psychosomatic causes of disease. It was absolutely fascinating, a lot of the stuff she says. But when we take it right back to the basics, you know, Indy, who's sitting behind me, she knows instantaneously just by sniffing which food she wants to eat and which food she doesn't. And she also picks up straight away, she must have eaten something the other day that didn't agree with her. So straight away, she was off foraging for certain grasses and herbs to bring that back up again. Yep. But because our humans are caught in this cycle of busy, 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 often a lot of people that watch you and I, they're the real empaths. They're the ones that are spending their life doing everything for everyone else, whether that other thing is an animal, other humans, and therefore they have lost that ability to tune in with themselves, and often don't until something goes disastrously wrong. So by working on that side, when we're sort of saying how important it is to work on yourself, it literally is affecting the course of humanity, and whether
it's life or death in a lot of cases. I mean, yeah. I love that you brought the food, Catherine, and I had that in both the 30-day and 60-day challenge. And one of the worst things we ever had handed to us was the food pyramid, because people just think that a fruit is a fruit, it's healthy, or a vegetable is a vegetable, it's healthy. And Ayurvedic medicine, all forms of holistic medicine will say that is not true. And so in the 30-day and 60, that's obviously, we've talked about the dosha system before, but the 30-day challenge and the 60-day challenge, I had people, and this is an incredible place to start. After you eat a meal, so after you eat breakfast, write down everything you had for breakfast, including any types of oils, or butter, or anything you use to put you to wipe the skillet down, everything, salt and pepper, everything in that meal. Write down everything you ate. Then give yourself 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour after you eat, and then write down how you're feeling. So food allergy isn't just bloated, constipation, diet. That's not our hives. That's not just food allergy. Food allergy can also be being tired after you've eaten, being depressed, causing anxiety, a heightened sense of anxiety, And so write that down. Or if you feel fantastic after you've eaten, note that food combination or that food obviously gave you, your stomach feels great, your organs seem to be working, then write that down, take note of that, and just start to experiment with yourself. Because I think you're right. I think we're so, again, it goes back to that idea that we're so trained to think somebody else out there knows better about us than we do. So we ignore the fact that our stomach hurts after we had an apple. Because I know for me, as a Vata, as someone who's Vata, if I eat raw apple, my stomach swells up. My body cannot digest those juices. Now I can have a cooked apple because the cooking changes the biochemistry. And so these are things that and if you're, and I see it a lot with kids too. And I know that food is expensive. Like, I absolutely get that. I know it's like, this is what we have to eat, so you got to eat it. But children know this. That's why children sometimes will push food away, because they know that this particular food is not good. It hurts their stomach, right? And like my niece, my oldest niece, when she was a baby, she loved blueberries, and she called them boobies, which was so funny. She like, boobies, boobies. But she loved them, and it didn't upset her stomach. She'll eat tomatoes raw,
Mm.
and it didn't upset her stomach, because as a child, so it wasn't like she knew that was a healthy food and the chocolate over here was, sugar. She just liked the way that food made her feel, and it tasted to her. And so if you look at children, they're naturally doing this. You naturally did this as a child. You just had that sovereignty, that personal power taken away from you through the training you were given of who knows best about your body than you do. It's the same thing. I had somebody asking me questions on my page the other day about researching, and they were like, well, I only want to look at particular scholar stuff. And I said, that's your problem. That you're missing a lot if you're only going to look at things that have been approved by the powers that be for you to look at. A good researcher is going to look at everything, right?
Yeah.
And so we've been trained to, and so take that pattern. I'm so glad you brought the food, Catherine, because starting with food is like such a fundamental, great, basic place to start that can totally, the minute, and I think some people too feel so crappy every day that they don't realize they feel crappy at this point. They've adapted to feeling crappy. And so
Yeah.
they don't even realize that they don't feel well until they start to feel better. And so that's an incredible place to start, is actually acknowledging where you might be wrong in your eating habits.
And it helps so much because it gives so much clarity. I did quite a few years ago, did quite a bit of study with Paul Chek on the holistic lifestyle coaching. And you're not meant to be able to read this, guys, but you can get his book. I think it's Eat, Sleep and Be Happy or something. I did have it here, but someone's borrowed it. But it's fantastic. And going into this level of detail of really starting to tune in. And trust me, this does not take very long for you to start remembering. As Brice said, we've all got this as an innate ability, but it's very quickly programmed out of us. You guys don't need to be talked to about that. You know more about programming than possibly most people. But it's not going to take you very much when you start asking your body these questions to get that feedback, and it just gets quicker and quicker and more innate. But when we start looking at ourselves and listening to ourselves at this level of detail, it's really, really important. So many people ask us, how do I know what's true? Who should I listen to, etc. But when you start tuning in with your body about the food, the sleep, the exercise, you very quickly just get that visceral gut feeling or shivers or whatever it might be for you when you hear something that resonates. And it doesn't mean you have to agree with everything that person is saying, but what you'll do is you'll get a feeling, does this lift my energy or does it take my energy down? And learning to listen to that. We're now at a stage, I genuinely believe, with the stage that AI is now developing so quickly, that we have to get this body back to listening to ourselves and knowing innately what is in our survival interest and what isn't, because we're right on the cusp of, we've lost so much of those innate abilities, or they've been hidden and buried and suppressed for so long. If we don't get them back quickly, we're in big trouble.
We're done. Yeah. And I think that's great. So I want to also, just from a very practical perspective, a lot of times when you're not eating food that serves your body, the energy of your body properly, it's going to cause you to have a foggy mind. It's
Yeah.
going to cause your cognitive abilities to decline. And so what's going to also happen when you start feeding the body the energy it needs is your precision of thought will get clearer. I know that was done intentionally. Like, I know they did that intentionally. Same with exercise. You know, the more you exercise, the more oxygen and blood you have pumping through your body and detoxing your body, your thought is going to be clearer as well. With exercise too, you're getting rid of excessive energy. So nervousness is gone. And when the nervousness is gone, you can think clearer and you can rationally, look at something somebody is saying and hear what they're saying, entertain what they're saying, and then be like, I always say common sense ain't so common. I believe, again, with the intuitive knowing, we are born with common sense. Common sense, it's not the academia of books that's going to save a civilization. It's literal common sense. It's going to save a civilization. I mean, I see animals there. I mean, Robbie does the same thing. When Robbie's stomach is upset, he will go immediately outside. When I see him eating a particular root from the ground, I know he's trying to make himself throw up. And I let him do it because he knows his stomach hurts. And so he's going to do what he needs to do to get whatever it is out of his system. He's not mad at me. Forgive. It's just is what it is, And so he's just fixing the problem. And so
taking responsibility for fixing the problem, and as long as we don't get in their way, they will do that really well. Just like fasting, Brice. So most animals will fast if they're not well. They're fast and they take themselves off to rest and sleep. And this is something that we could really learn from, because there's so much science now. Again, I didn't realize, I realized that it was a fast with, I've been brought up with saying breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You've got to start with breakfast. But actually that was done by Kellogg's cornflakes that coined that. And most people, a lot of people would do a lot better by suppressing their eating window into a much narrower band. That's what we're designed to do. Just like daylight hours, in the summer, we can expand that active period. And in the winter, you don't, because, we have evolved regardless of, I'm not talking about evolving from apes, although I'm still going to need counseling because I love monkeys and I have nothing would make me happier than thinking I come from a monkey. So I'm still in trauma about that. But in all seriousness, we are designed to follow the nature's natural cycles. And when we don't, our body will start reacting. Our hormones get very out of balance, which again affects our cognitive. So you can learn a lot about this. I was listening to a fantastic podcast on it this morning, but you don't have to. All you need to learn to do is to listen to your body and then try out different things and really tune in with what's working for you, because what works for Brice is going to be different to what works for me.
And I'll say to the thing about breakfast as well. Yeah. I do my practice at the early morning hours, and I stop eating around between 4 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because when I do my practice in the morning, I want my stomach to be completely empty, because when my stomach is completely empty, the blood in my body can then go and service other organs. It can pump better through because it's not focused on digesting food. And so and after I practice, I'm usually like 30 minutes to an hour before I actually eat something, to allow my body to settle into that rhythm. And I agree with you, Catherine. We've been so trained. And I know a lot of people who wake up in the morning and the thought of eating first thing makes them nauseated. Listen to that. If you wake up in the morning and your body's like, oh God, if I eat something, I'm going to puke. That's your body telling you it's not ready yet for food. It's still, when we go into sleep, we go into the REM cycle, where there's a chemical that's actually released in your body that semi-paralyzes you so that you won't act out your dreams. This is where people say sleep paralysis comes from, when the mind wakes up before the body. And so if you think about that, that's why you're tighter in the morning because your body is now detoxing the natural chemical, the natural hormone it released while you were sleeping, so your body could actually heal itself instead of acting out your dreams. And so if you think about that, if the body's saying no to food first thing in the morning, if you're feeling nauseated, then respect that your body is still working on something else and it needs a moment before you put food into it. So it then has to go directly to the colon to help that process. So respect your body enough to listen to your natural rhythms. And you're right, Catherine, in Ayurvedic, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., that's pitta, or 10 a.m. in the morning to 2 p.m. p.m. So over that lunch hour, that's the pitta time, which is the fiery time of day. Ayurveda will tell you that window of time is when you should be probably the most hungry, and
Yeah,
your body is in the best window of time to digest food properly. So start to listen to that and see where your body naturally falls in that. Some people, I read an article once that said some people are intuitively morning eaters, where other people are intuitively evening eaters. It does.
absolutely.
Listen to what your body is telling you. And when I used to babysit as a teenager, I would notice that with kids. There would be kids that would, when I read this article, I thought back to this. Kids that I babysit in the mornings, they would be snacking all day. But then once noon came around, they didn't want anything. And then some kids wouldn't eat anything in the morning and they'd be snacking all afternoon, right? So they were intuitively in line with their bodies. And it's so easy, and that's what I want to encourage. I think too, Catherine, people I think get overwhelmed sometimes when they think about working on themselves, like they don't know where to start. They think they have to sign up for trauma therapy, which you can do if you want to, but it literally is something so simple as figuring out what food works for you, figuring out which exercise works the best for you. That's the start of taking accountability and doing your own work. It's so simple.
It really is. And I think the results are so profound. So, when we're looking about tuning into yourself, let's get back to a lot of the fears that people are really worried about what's happening on a more global or humanity-wide situation. If each and every one of us started having that awareness and tuning into ourselves, we wouldn't follow unstable leaders. We wouldn't be able to be brainwashed. So all these excuses of things that have been done to us would go largely, not completely, because we're not meant to be perfect. No one is, and it's just so simple in terms of when you understand how important it is, you give yourself that time, and that will change as you go through different stages of your life. So your hormones change as you go through different ages of your life, and therefore you need to keep that tuning in process going, because what suited you when you were a teenager doesn't always suit you when you're 40. And that goes on, and this is part of listening and just learning to live with nature. And I think for me, a real penny really dropped when I was thinking, God, there is mass panic about AI, which actually has been creeping up on us for years. Because as you say, the algorithms, there's not one person that doesn't use social media that doesn't know that if they've listened to something on YouTube, suddenly an ad for that exact thing will pop up on Instagram. So it's like a disease in the body. By the time the symptom manifests, the imbalance has been going on for a long while. This is exactly the same with AI. So now it's come into our consciousness. Fine. Now it's come into our consciousness. What are each of us on an individual level going to do about it? Because if we weren't worried about the mass consciousness of humanity and where we're at, then we wouldn't be worried about AI.
Exactly, because it's a tool. You can use it. So like Mr. Fox said, if you're on the positive side, it can be a testing into social memory complex, where if you are working on your own self and you're watching or listening to podcasts about self-healing, and more is going to be brought to you about self-healing. And so at that point, the AI becomes an incredible tool to tap into other people's experiences on these podcasts so you can reflect. I love hearing other people's stories because it helps me reflect on my own experience. It helps me see things from a different perspective. And so, or you can use AI to continue going down that derangement. And you're right, Catherine. Also, I think too, I'm thinking about how many junk conspiracies people have fallen for. And I think if we were taking better care of ourselves and had more common sense that we are born with, reestablished within our forefront of our thought, we would be able to set up better boundaries. And so we would understand that, okay, if the white hats are the good guys, they're not going to do things that are abusive towards us. But if we've been on a path of derangement, we haven't had boundaries, then we've accepted abuse in our life. And so therefore we accept other abuses or think other good, like they say, kids who grow up in an abusive home will interpret abuse as love as an adult. That's something I had to go through, because as a child, I was programmed to believe that that was what love was. And I had to go back and correct that myself so that I understood that love does not abuse you. Goodness does not abuse you. And so if we understood that intuitively, we wouldn't fall for these hoaxes. We wouldn't fall, because we know, I've said many times, the controllers are many things. Stupid isn't one of them. And so of course they have plants in our community telling you it's cool, the white hats have got it, it's all just a movie, sit back, relax, it's fine, while the New World Order and the AI walks through the front door and demolishes all of us. It's the perfect plan. But if we had our own ability to reenact that common sense, that no, this is a boundary, abuse is not okay, lying is not okay, I don't believe you, and then we can turn that off. All the simple thing you have to say is, no, I don't believe you, turn you off, right? And so therefore you start to take that power back. And we know energetically, we know vibrationally, that just making that decision to say, I don't believe you and I don't consent to this abuse in your head already starts ricocheting trajectory of change, right?
Massively.
It's just making that decision. It's not that you have to go out and put up a sign and like, you literally just change the trajectory of where you're headed by just saying, no, I personally don't believe you, and so I'm not going to follow this train of thought seriously that you're on, or whatever, And that's the whole point of this great awakening, if you want to call it that. It's not about knowing things outside of yourself. That's just knowledge. That's just EDO. The bad guys also know the same facts that we know. This point of this great awakening is you awakening to yourself. Yeah. And as our friend Hilla says, remembering who you are, and you made a point in the beginning before we started filming, Catherine, that about the God consciousness. Yes, we all are a spark of God, but you have to remember that just because you are God consciousness, you are a spark of that God, that creator, that source, doesn't mean that you can't screw up. So we need to be humble about that and understand that we are capable of being manipulated. And the only person that can unmanipulate you is you.
This is what it all comes down to. Beautifully said. And, the God spark, whatever your words you want to describe that for yourself. Yes, each and every human is special, but so is every plant, so is every animal. And sometimes we use that and abuse it as an excuse for behaving in a ways that's over dominant and completely out of balance. And that's not how it was intended to be used. So that's very similar in terms of the principle of what we're looking at now with the AI side of things. It will be abusive to humans and the planet and everything that goes with that if we don't change ourselves. And we need to change ourselves now, quickly, right here, right now. It's a choice. It starts with those little steps. It doesn't need to be overwhelming at all. But when you do start with those little steps and you really start tuning in for yourself, then just watch and see just how quickly everything else shifts in your life. And you don't need to be in a rush to do it. You don't need to take it all on at once. Just pick one thing to start with. Start doing that, and then that snowball effect will give you all the motivation you need to keep going.
And I said this yesterday on my channel. I'm going to say it again. We talk about all these people that might be alive, might not be alive. I want everybody watching right now to know that as a soul, you are just as special as Princess Diana. You are just as special as John. You are just as special as Michael Jackson. So I want you guys to treat yourselves in this self-awareness, this self-work, with the same curiosity that you've expressed in these other people, right? Does that make sense? Like, there's no human being on this earth that is more valuable than we are all equally. It's like somebody said with the whole narcissist thing, a healthy person knows that they're a special little flower.
Exactly.
But they also know everybody else is also a special little flower. You got some dandelions, you got some we're just different special little flowers. A narcissist, however, thinks they're the only special little flower and the rest is just weeds. So I want you to understand, people idolize these people that might be here, might not be here. We don't know. It doesn't really matter to your particular life. It really is just their journey. But I want you to sit every day and think, I am just as valuable in this experience as Princess Diana, or as Mr. T, or as this person or that person, and start treating yourself with that same respect, that you are more valuable than you even know, because you are who they fight over. So start taking that inner curiosity with yourself, because you guys I think you're a whole lot cooler than you think you are. And you'll get to know that working on yourself, how truly spectacular you are. And so take this as not something that is harsh, but something that's fun and exciting to learn about yourself.
Yeah, it is fun and exciting. And also it will shift every aspect of your life. So you don't need to have a master plan. That's the beauty of it. You don't need to work too hard. You're literally paddling downstream with the current, because once you start remembering these skills, that it just gets easier and easier and easier. And we don't want to paddle upstream anymore. We don't want to focus on where we don't want to be going, because every time we're doing that, that's being picked up by the AI as well. And it's like when you're speaking to a small child or when you're working with an animal, you never say, don't open that cupboard door, because all they pick up is your focus is on the cupboard door. You're always affirming everything in the positive. So all these laws of these energetic laws all fit together. If we affirm what we do want in every stage of the journey, then it shifts really quickly. So let us know below. Please let us know what you think about that. Please let us know how you can reframe any of these fears that you might have. And it's okay to have them. We're not saying suppress the fears, but once you have them, how can you transmute them into thinking about what you do want rather than you don't?
I know, and I will say too, there was a little quick YouTube short I watched today. I thought is brilliant for what you're talking about what we give attention to, and it was a female dog trainer,
Yeah.
and this puppy came in that had a problem with. We've all had the dog where they just love you so much they just jump and want to like mesh their bodies. They jump on your friends and stuff, and the humans were like, we don't know how to get her to stop jumping on people, and it was very simple. Very simple. The trainer came in, the puppy was jumping on her, and she completely ignored the puppy. And then when the puppy sat down, she said, good girl, and gave her a treat. And she explained what you give. The puppy is just looking for attention.
Yeah.
And so if you're saying no and you're giving the puppy attention, then it's going to reinforce that bad habit. So when you are getting into that bad habit of like fear thinking or watching these YouTubes that is doom and gloom, you're giving attention to that. And so like that puppy, if you just ignore it, don't give it attention, but only give the puppy attention when they're sitting quietly and respectfully, then it starts to foster healthy habits and a different type of lifestyle. And I thought that's just genius what she did. She didn't scold the puppy. She just did not give it the attention until it calmed down.
And that's where you can see the intentions are really pure, because if you're dealing with a narcissist, they won't calm down.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say that puppy calmed down in like 5 seconds.
Yeah. All of this, it really links in together. And I suppose, this is why we've been, sort of going on for so long about be conscious where you put your energy, because bearing in mind the most obvious place for all of us where we're seeing the AI that's picking up all our patterns and then projecting that into what they think humanity wants is what you're choosing to watch, what you're choosing to listen to on all your social media platforms. So if you're choosing to buy into the drama, that is what we're training the AI to produce for us. If you're choosing to tune into stuff that's really positive and moving humanity and the earth and everything on it in the direction you want, that is training the AI in that direction. Choose wisely. So on that note, we've got giveaways to give, haven't we?
I know. And I'm actually going to, okay, so can I share screen quickly, Catherine? Because I wanted to show.
I think.
Oh, I got it. Here we go.
Yeah, you got it.
So Michelle Murphy, you actually won the Marnie Alton. For just all I need for you to do, Michelle, is email me at esotericatlanta@gmail.com and put Marnie in the subject box. All I need is your email address. That's all I need for Marnie Alton. And I did want to comment quickly on this. You asked about just curious if even anybody that is always pretty darn healthy, saying that out of the blue they have a sick with fever and shaking in the night, muscle cramps, and very low energy. So I did answer you back, Michelle, but I did want to say this again. If you go on my channel, I do have a video I did a long time ago called the Yoga Fever. And so I think, and that could be a whole nother episode that Catherine and I cover with what sickness really is. That is very normal, Michelle. And in the East, in Ayurvedic, it's expected. So when we have, like, let's say natural forest fires, not fake ones, but natural ones, or compost piles, your body, when you have a fever, your body is burning up old karma. It's burning up old patterns because you've been working so hard on yourself through exercise or whatever. Your body now is responding to that by getting rid of old stuff. stuff. And it does that by having a low grade fever. Now, obviously, this is not medical advice, but what we are told in the East is if you have a low grade fever and muscle cramps, try not to just drink a lot of water, let your body burn it out. Now, if your fever gets really high, that's a different case altogether. But yes, so for you guys, especially you guys who are new to exercise, new to yoga, that will happen from time to time. It still happens to me from time to time. And every time I get the yoga fever, I go, oh, good, something else is detoxing, right? Something else is changing in the body. And so just usually will last like a day or maybe less than, and then you'll be fine. So do expect that. Guruji used to get very excited when people got the fever because it meant something was happening, something was shooken up, something was changing. And so your body does know what it's doing. Sickness is not necessarily a bad thing. German New Medicine says sickness is a form of healing. The East says that sickness is necessary for ascension, for your body to level up. So so yes, not something to fear, Michelle. And you actually won for Marnie Alton. So Michelle Murphy 7614, please again send me an email at esotericatlanta@gmail.com with Marnie Alton or Marnie in the subject line. And I think I'm just going to go for the next week. I'm going to do another Marnie Alton since we are talking a lot about exercise, and I'll get back to the Asea because I know Catherine's doing Asea. So next week, and today's date for you guys know is the 15th of June, 2023. So if somebody's watching this weeks from now, so today is, so you have a week, Michelle, to email me at esotericatlanta@gmail.com, and I will send you a month subscription to Marnie Alton's website.
Love it. And my winner, who has won a tube of the Renew 28, which is amazing to regenerate from the outside in, but you can also use it over your vagus nerve. You can use it on acupoints. There's so many things you can do with this amazing gel. Now, my winner is Tracy Duncan 2458. Tracy Duncan 2458. I need you to email me. The details will be in the description box below, on Catherine Edwards Life 17. That's Catherine Edwards Life 17 @gmail.com. And Tracy, for you, I need your full postal address and your phone number, because with the courier sending it out, they'll need your phone number for the tracking detail. And just put in the title, Renew 28 winner. So, and next week, I'm going to give away another tube as well. One of the reasons I'm sticking to this is one of such an amazing way for you to start tuning in for yourself, because when you see how quickly things can start shifting when you give your body what's innately should be in it, you're just going to be blown away. But the other reason is this is one of the products that I know is available from Asea in every country that they ship to. Well, some of the other ones, because I don't know what countries the winners are going to be from, it's a little bit more tricky. So it's a great introduction. Now, next week, I'm not here because I've got something else in the schedule that can't be missed. So we will be back in 2 weeks' time on Brice's channel, but you still need to email us within a week, the winners, and then we will be back. So for next week, for people that want to win in 2 weeks, you put in the comments Renew 28 for mine, and Marnie for Brice's. You can enter for both of them because we both do our draws completely independently. So don't worry, you can enter for both of them. And enjoy. And we will be back in 2 weeks' time on Brice's channel. But in between that, we will be back with Mr. Fox to talk about the very, very important subject of wanderers. And this really fits in with everything we've been speaking about. So you'll start to see how all of these little bits of the jigsaw puzzle form together.
So that'll be the 29th of June, guys. That's 2 weeks from today. So yeah, so next week there'll be no coffee chat because Catherine has a scheduling issue, but then we'll be back on the 29th. And I do, before we sign off, speaking of Asea, I want to give a little bit of a reminder. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. my time, that's East Coast time. So that's New York City time if you're looking on your iPhone. If you are in Australia, I did a brief video with Jay the other day, and we talked about it because I know we have a lot of Australian viewers. Asea is just now like touching ground in Australia. So if you are one of our Australians, I already have 5 people ready to go, and you want to perhaps maybe get into the Asea business in Australia because it will be groundbreaking because it's so new in Australia. There is a Zoom tomorrow morning, Friday the 16th at 7 a.m. my time, J time, and Hillis time. Again, that's New York City, East Coast time. I believe for people on the West Coast of Australia, that is 16 hours ahead. So that's 9 p.m. at night for you. That's how Tamara and I typically do it. So that's why we pick that time. If you want to sit in on that meeting, this is not a show. We're not recording it. This is just a meeting with Jay and Hillis about the business of Asea just for the Australians. This is strictly for our Australians. Email me at esotericatlanta@gmail.com. Put Australia in the subject line, and I will send you that Zoom link for tomorrow morning, Friday morning. Again, I'm going to reiterate that 7 a.m. my time, East Coast time, in the United States, New York City time, and 9 p.m. for the western coast of Australia. If you're in Perth, I'm not sure how many hours are separated, but just make sure you've got the right time. And Jay and Hillis will be there to talk to you guys about the business of Asea and help you establish Asea in Australia if that's something you are interested in.
A really great opportunity there. I've got a few Asea clients in Australia, and it's such a great opportunity for anyone there. So please do join that meeting. Thank you everyone for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and we will be back in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. My goal is to inspire as many people as I can to live their best lives, to stay curious, and to raise their consciousness and that of the collective. So to do this, I need to reach as many people as possible, and this needs your help. If you feel drawn, would you be willing to share your favourite episode with 5 different people? This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. If you feel drawn to do that, I will be very, very grateful. All the links and discount codes where applicable for all the products that I support are on my 2 websites, catherineedwards.life and catherineedwardsacademy.com. All of the products are personally tried and tested by me, my family, and my clients. And finally, please do press the follow or subscribe button, depending which platform you're listening on. And above all, stay curious and stay free.